Hey everyone, Dan Crypto. The markets, as you can see, Bitcoin 19,000. We have Ethereum at 13,000. What's happening here is institutional money that has been entering into the space. They're building out the on-ramps for integration. So Bitcoin either gets mass adoption or it's an attempt to slow down the production or the increase in Bitcoin's value, where Bitcoin is a true decentralized store of value. It was a peer-to-peer currency, but now it's the perceived store of value. But you have to understand what's happening is the hash rate. Large miners that now Wall Street, that they get funding by Wall Street. And to control the price naturally as a block is produced and we produce a Bitcoin, well, right now to slow down the value, we see that there's volatility, the uncertainties in all the markets. With the Dow Jones, it's holding consistently, but it's at 31,000. So what we have here is an index, which is a representation of 30 corporations. And this index of these corporations indicates the health of an economy based on how well these corporations are producing. The uncertainty here is certainly it's global, and we have issues with supply chains, which certainly is causing a slowdown because it's supply and demand, but that has an effect globally. We had $7 trillion just with the US economy, but the global markets during COVID. So naturally, all this money that has fueled and entered the global economy, which naturally creates a devaluation. But the real question is how and why? Well, we have to take a look at the World Economic Forum, which is partnered with global leaders throughout the world. So you have partners and allies. Here you see with the sanctioning of this protocol, which affects all, which was Tornado Cash, which was a software. That's the US Treasury. But we have to look where and who is involved, because this has an effect on everything. So when we look at the partners, well, you start seeing with the partners of this economic forum, it's big money. Well, just right in the front page here, we have the Bank of China, Bank of America. You have BlackRock right here. And you have so many, BNY Mellon, that now has entered and is wanting to accept crypto payments. Only 5% of the population truly have an understanding of cryptocurrency and being able to take ownership of your asset. So the majority of the population don't have an understanding and have fear with cryptocurrency. Boeing. And we can go down this list that big money is heavily involved. So BlackRock, as we stated, everyone is excited for them to enter into cryptocurrency, and they've partnered and working with Coinbase. But they could easily take over Coinbase because it's a publicly traded company. We have Fidelity International, another that has come into the space and has been in cryptocurrency since 2014. And now they're going to be making available Ethereum for their institutional accredited investors. So when you go down this list and you see the partners and the big money that is allied with the World Economic Forum, but also you have to understand is this is the elite and the 1%. So they have an agenda. So we understand that fiat currency, but the debt and what's happening within all markets. The debt and the creation of currency, how it starts. So you have money and then you have credit. So when your time, your value of time, and you're working, well, you're generating a weekly, monthly, yearly salary. Well, now based on your credit rating, you're able to get credit. So if you made 60,000 and your credit worthiness, well, could you get a line of credit for 20,000? So now your 60 plus 20 is 80, but 20 of that is debt. So the whole markets are designed around debt. And the government operates throughout the world with debt. So that is something that right now we're seeing with treasury bonds, we're seeing with the gilt markets, and what has happened is the currencies, the uncertainty, and Wall Street, how they typically operate is on a 60-40 equities and bonds. So you have bonds, which would be your most conservative investment vehicle. But these bonds now, because of the raising interest rate, have very little value and no one wants them because when they mature. But if you flood the market and the currency, right now we see the DXY and the dollar is strong against all other currencies. But what gives the dollar the dominance and makes it a global currency, which was the petrodollar, which is energy, but the United States and all its allies now have decided to take an agenda which is a clean energy agenda. And this organization, the World Economic Forum, that is heavily in their whole alliance is clean energy. And also they talk about the retransformation. They discuss on how there can be an equality where no one entity or organization controls. And we have issues that are happening globally. We have the war in Ukraine that creates uncertainty with Russia. but it's the energy that ends up being the key, because energy is the lifeline of all economies. But even here, we have some of the largest energy producers that also have partnered with Baker Hughes, which is a large producer of energy and definitely within the United States. And you ask yourself why? Well, it's all about the reset, which is the central banks wanting to create a CBDC, and they use the technology that was started in 2009, which ends up being Bitcoin. And then you have smart contracts. As the private sector has expanded and developed, because you need innovation from the private sector. So cryptocurrency is definitely where someone wants to be, because it is the future and it's the now. But also what's happening is the large elite 1% are building the on-ramps, but also trying to innovate and create a currency that potentially, yes, all countries do utilize, but every country has enormous debt. And we saw the pound, the UK, that was or is at an all-time low against the dollar, and the devaluation there, but it's the selling of the gilts, which are similar to our treasury bonds. We have so many things that have happened. We have gold that has been upgraded to a tier 1, so it gives the equivalent of currency in central banks and large institutions. We have Russia that has been removed from the SWIFT international money system. We have the international IMF that wants to create a new Bretton Woods, and their alliance with the World Economic Forum. We have the World Bank. We have the Bank of Intermittence. So all the large money, the elite 1%, are redesigning and trying to create something that creates a central bank currency. Governments are funded by central banks, and the people's revenue and the tax revenue, but there's a shortfall. So there's always a deficit. They're always short. So being in cryptocurrency, you want to be definitely in the correct ones. So Bitcoin potentially in the long run, yes, the upside. But what's happened with Bitcoin is very much similar to what has happened with gold, which you create the paper markets, which is the CMEs. And what happens is you actually dilute and you can control the price. So Ethereum, once it went to proof of stake, well, now you have large centralized entities that control and moderate the organization of the whole system. So it's uncertain which ones succeed, but definitely Ethereum is a leader, but we're waiting for Pulsechain, which I believe is through freedom of speech and freedom to travel. So we eagerly wait for that, which is something that hopefully sooner than later. I've come out to support Conrad Zen with Pzen, but I'm still a strong supporter of Hacks. I I believe Hacks has a place and is a better store of value than a Bitcoin. What we're seeing right now with Hacks, where it's at 3 cents, well, we've had derivative products from the Maxi organization that they've built on top of Hacks. You had Maxi, which is a 15-year. We have Deci, we have Lucky, and we have Base. So there's funds and money that it values going there. But Hex is holding at 3 cents. Yes, it's had a high of 48 cents, but once things consolidate, I believe we'll start to see a uptick. But being consistent, yes, it's off its all-time high, but all cryptocurrency, there's a lot of volatility in cryptocurrency. So the same way it goes on the upside and the downside. You have Hedron, which is the HSIs, so they come available, which is the T shares in November. So then you have all projects that have launched that are going to integrate onto Pulsechain. So revenues have gone there, but the money had to come from somewhere. So if someone wasn't within Hacks, potentially it's their right. They may choose to swap and integrate into another project. But my thoughts are unite, be strong. It's a cooperative effort. When I see a project, and that's why I look at Pzen, I look at the odds of probabilities. So we have under 2,000 holders. And when I see the potential on what it can do, where it's not an inflationary token, so there's no inflation that creates the revenue. It is a deflationary environment based on all interactions. So the pay it forward system is a redistribution network. And the more that we understand how it operates, it does create inequality because it's fair. And the 2% redistribution also, it's shared with all the holders based on the percentage of ownership. What Pzen is, it is a cooperative ownership. So if you analyze this, it would be similar to owning a cooperative business where everyone works together for the good of the community. So Pzen really does create a wealth redistribution because the 2% gets redistributed to all the participants. And why share it? Because the volatility in traditional markets, cryptocurrency, Web3, the information of things, as we're able to send information simultaneously, first time in a lifetime where Bitcoin had allowed to be able to have ownership of an asset. Ethereum allowing you to create a smart contract. The code is key because the 2% redistribution, it's immutable because it's an economic economy has the ability to produce work. Now what happens is your wallet is your bank. Once you own Pzen, your wallet becomes a producer. So now as you earn Pzen, it is deflationary. We have the burn, which is that key factor based on all interaction, the 0.01. It's the transaction transfer size. So now we have the size would represent the volume, but also we have a frequency which represents time. Once an interaction happens, that's why I am so adamant about that Pzen is a trustless yield compounding, but it's an increasing yield. Once an interaction has happened and you take ownership of Pzen, after your first interaction and a redistribution occurs, your wallet receives more Pzen because it's a producer. You do not need to stake. You do not have counterparty risk. The code is immutable. It is an infinite. It will always do what it says. Once you receive your original first redistribution, on each redistribution, because you receive more Pzen, you have an increasing compounding yield. So your yield goes up. It is a cooperative ownership of asset where all work together. We also have a charity. The charity will be controlled by the DAO, and all the participants, the cooperative owners of Pzen, can decide where and who receives the charity to. So doing good for others. But the key thing is what happens is we have an opportunity to share and help others because of the redistribution, the 2%. There is no inflation. It is all based on a fixed supply that started with 880 million. The supply reduces every interaction. Pzen is a pay it forward, but it's a redistribution ownership cooperative asset. And all that have ownership, it is an ability to assist others, but also share the opportunity because it will always do what it says. But it's an increasing yield. Anyone that you either want to acquire wealth or you want to maintain your wealth. So to maintain wealth is you want to generate a yield. But if you're trying to acquire wealth, you look at odds of probabilities. Can this socially engineered Web3 token increase in value? The answer would be yes. The odds of probabilities are in its favor, but sometimes people are closed-minded because you can create a Metcalfe's law. It is a network effect. That is how Bitcoin started. That is how Ethereum started. That's how all crypto original tokens started and still participate. It is creating a network because it's the community. It is the network. It is the Zenites. You work together and you share it. You have social media. You can use your Twitter. You can do so many things. You can have small groups. But it's a redistribution wealth pay it forward network. It's infinite. It's immutable. It will never stop. The code with the 2% redistribution, 0.01% of the burn, the price over time, because you're removing the supply, it will increase in value. As right now we're at day 59 and it's still in the early launch phase. This was an organic launch. You hear things about the Howey test. It meets all those requirements. No effort from the work of others. You generate and participate and choose to purchase. Then your wallet becomes a producer. The code in an economy has the ability to do work because the code is endless and immutable. And then you have a cooperative participation by all who interact. So that makes this a opportunity, early opportunity, a upside potential dramatically. But if you own a cooperative business, you participate and you share. If anyone has owned a business, you make an investment, and then how do you generate a revenue? How do you have your clients or guests visit? Or if you're in sales, it's how many interactions. How many people do I interact with for me to generate and get a sale, to help generate an income? Pzen is a cooperative ownership asset that the community owns. And your percentage of ownership, you receive a passive income, but it's an income producing. You can also say that because based on your ownership and percentage and a yield that continually increases with every participant interaction, based on the transaction transfer size, that frequency increases time. So if all that have a cooperative ownership of Pzen and share it and interact with others, because it's an opportunity. This is not just an onboard. This is an opportunity that they can generate income and be part of a wealth redistribution network. It's part of a network that redistributes, and if you decide based on whatever your needs are that you want to take a distribution, you may do so because there's no lockup. But the time value of money is time. And you can let that yield and it compounds. So you can have an amazing return that is compounding and starts creating multiples and doubles. But if you choose to take a distribution, your ownership gets transferred. It becomes a transfer of ownership. So now they own and are part of the cooperative participant Pzen economy. So it's an opportunity for anyone. When you share it, it's a redistribution, wealth, pay it forward, charity to help others in need. But what happens is the odds of probability are in the favor because it's early, creating Metcalfe's law, which is a network effect. But I believe we also have secret disciples. I'm not sure if it's ones that have interacted or with hacks, or any other. What does it matter? We are all one. The goal is to have financial freedom. I support Hex tremendously. I support Pulsechain, and I support others. But I see an opportunity, and if I do not share it because I want others to have an opportunity to know what it means to have financial freedom. Talk to you soon. Wish you the best.